Bitcoin is on the move after breaking out of its consolidatory phase. Where can it go to? That's what our topic is on this week's episode of the Bitcoin Minute. When we spoke last week, Bitcoin was just below 52,000. We said that the most likely scenario was consolidation and then an eventual break to the upside. We got that break and it broke hard today. As pricing continues to rise, we are going to switch to a shorter term chart to see what today's price action can tell us. We have just switched over to a 1 hour candlestick chart. As you can see, this is a live chart of spot Bitcoin. Just by looking at the volume down here, spikes in volume. The move that broke us out of the consolidation phase occurred in New York trading. The move that occurred on the 25th of February, which took Bitcoin out of this narrow trading band, all happened mainly within a 2 hour period, which corresponds to the open in New York. And as you can see, overseas in Hong Kong, traders took the price yet again higher still, just about touching where we see resistance at, which is around 58,000. Now, we know that this breakout has a lot to do with the ETF inflows, and interestingly enough, the follow-through happening in Hong Kong overseas. Hong Kong is next in line for getting a spot Bitcoin ETF. So we had just mentioned that the breakout has a lot to do with the ETF inflows. And Bloomberg announced earlier today that the ETF set a new record for combined daily trading volume. Out of the 9 spot Bitcoin ETFs, over 2.4 billion in shares were traded today. And BlackRock's ETF, IBIT, passed the $1 billion mark and actually is ranked 11th among all ETFs. We have discussed previously how massive of an effect a spot Bitcoin ETF can have on the market and the price, and to compare it to gold and what effect ETFs had, we look to this chart. This line marking the 1st of November 2004 is when the Spider Gold shares, the first gold ETF, was listed. As shown in the chart, it wasn't long after the ETF was listed that gold entered a parabolic rally, taking it above $1,000 for the first time in history. It took a few months for the Spider Gold shares to really have an effect on price. Not so with the Bitcoin ETFs, which are having a dramatic effect right out of the gate. And the best part is all of this is done on a regulated listing, providing some security to investors, as well as custody solutions for people not so technically adept. We're still in the very first stages of the effect the 9 ETFs are having on Bitcoin. And just to give us an idea of how much Bitcoin these ETFs are holding currently, I will bring up a chart. Now, this chart shows us up to February 22nd, the amount of Bitcoin held by the 9 ETFs. And the black line above it shows what percent of the Bitcoin supply this represents. Obviously, these gaps in between the bars are the weekends when the ETFs are not trading. On the 22nd, we were at 292,000 Bitcoin, which we have surpassed. We're now sitting well above 300,000 total Bitcoin in the ETFs. But look at back when it was 292,000, it still represented only about 1.5% of Bitcoin's total supply. So that alone says the ETFs have a lot of room yet still to grow because they account for such a small fraction of the total Bitcoins in circulation. So back to our Bitcoin chart, you can see that we are getting closer to the highs of 57,000 reached earlier overseas. We most certainly will see 58,000 before we hit any sort of stopping point. We could easily surpass that and even test all-time highs before having any sort of correction. We actually issued a trade alert earlier today at around $54,000 was our entry point. If you wish to be included in our future trade alerts, all you have to do is go to thegoldforecast.com/crypto and sign up for our free service. Now, we are in territory that we have not been in since we were at the all-time highs in November 2021. 800 days, 118 weeks. We are soon going to surpass all-time highs, even quicker than I anticipated. This is all happening before the halving narrative really is in play. So who knows how high Bitcoin can go to in this bull run? That's it for this week's show. We'll talk to you next week, where I'm sure the price will be much, much higher.